This is the steering box that was in Tim's 140 500. Previous owner thought it was a good idea to drive the car indefinitely with no power steering fluid because the reservoir was leaking and he was too cheap to fix it. As a result, this steering box was catastrophically destroyed. There's a massive amount of play, and when you add fluid to it, it violently jerks in one direction to the point it wants to break your hands and veer off into oncoming traffic. I presume that's going to be the spool valve for the assistance left and right being jammed in one direction, probably because of metal particles. We're going to tear this thing down and have a look inside and see what the carnage is from driving extended periods with no power steering fluid. We are going to save this solenoid, which does the switching between a lot of assistance and not much assistance. So you get a lot of assistance at low speed maneuvering in like car parks and whatnot, and when you're above a certain speed you get but less assistance. The steering box from the 300 SE donor car was a perfect fit for the 500. It was actually interchangeable, so we had a good box to put in that car. So this is going straight into the bin as we disassemble it. Tim's just taking care of the disassembly because it started raining and I don't fancy getting wet at the moment. There's going to be zero care given to the disassembly because, as mentioned, every piece is just going straight in the bin anyway. You don't use a catastrophically damaged steering box for obvious reasons. It's a death trap. Just examining the carnage. Spool valve isn't chewed up, though there is little bits of metal in there. That's not what was causing it to be locked in one direction. Well, the assist, locked in one direction. The balls, exceptionally poor condition. There's actually half balls in there where they've basically split in half. Yeah, it's less than optimal. And of course there's lots of chunks of steel inside the housing, so this is junk. This is going straight in the bin. This isn't too bad. And also the Pitman arm shaft isn't too bad. Where is that? That's disappeared. Ah, here. There's a reasonable amount of wear on there. So this is what wears when you have issues with excessive clearance in the middle of the steering range and it tightens up at the outer extremes. And this is also what you're adjusting when you're adjusting the I can't remember what it's called, the nut or whatever it is that adjusts the free play of the steering box. On the 140 it's all accessible at the bottom. On the 124 it's up the top, and you can see the shape of these gears. They're skinny at the top and they're thicker at the bottom, and that's what's taking up the clearance when you're moving this thing up and down with that adjustment. May not be immediately obvious, but yes, that's what's going on there. Not going to reuse this. This is going in the trash as well. As mentioned, we already have a decent box, so no point keeping any of this junk. I'll show you the ball carrier. That's where the most excitement is. So this is what this actual shaft is meshing with that does the steering. think these are a straight cut, so I think all the adjustments actually in that thing as far as the tightening of it is concerned. I think, yeah, they do look straight. But anyway, the carnage is inside here. And this, by the way, is what moves that spool valve to apply assistance in either direction. And that's very difficult to move because there's all bits and pieces of balls and metal filings all jammed up in there. That is a very sad looking mechanism. Absolutely destroyed. As to what the hell happened here, I can't say, but definitely driving around thousands of kilometers with no power steering fluid, I would suggest, is quite likely what contributed to the death of this thing. Might, out of interest, take this apart a bit further. You can see that return thing there that the balls slide around in. It's actually split open there as well. That's not how that's supposed to be. This thing is absolutely screwed. Still chunks of ball flying out of that. I'll see if I can separate that a bit more just to see a bit more of that carnage. So this U-shaped pipe that returns the balls is also all smashed up as well. Yeah, they're not going to be happy with half balls being circulated around in there. And there's chunks of balls and metal all in the bearings and everything. So, yeah, the recycling bin is the best place for this steering box. And the reason this thing doesn't move very smoothly is there's actually ball bearings at either end of it, and they're just full of metal fragments, so it's just jamming up. That's why the assist is basically just freaking out and smashing the steering wheel in one direction, almost breaking your arms off, when there's actually hydraulic fluid in the system. Out of interest, I'll show you how easy it was for Tim to repair the power steering pump next. Ordinarily, when I rebuild my steering box, I don't even take this apart any further. I can't remember in the service manual if they even tell you to take this apart any further. I don't think it's necessary normally, because we're not really doing anything mechanical. It's more about resealing the thing. So if this is in good condition, I don't believe you even need to touch it. This is obviously finished. There's no saving any part of this box. It's junk. So on these late M119s, you've got this plastic reservoir version power steering pump, and as far as I could tell in the EPC parts catalogue, if you're not familiar, they don't list anything to actually repair it or rebuild it for this version. Though technically, from what I understand, it's actually the same as the other versions, it just has a different top on it. But there's no O-rings that I could find in the EPC particular to this plastic tank, and that's where the leak was. It was just gushing out from underneath that reservoir. So I just removed it and took the O-rings to a O-ring supplier and got a couple new ones. It cost him all of, what, $2? No need to spend $700 or whatever it is for the rip-off merchants to rebuild these unique power steering pumps. If that's all the issue is, just take the reservoir off and go and get some O-rings and fix it yourself.